As a professional athlete, this is nonstop, right? It's all day. What gets you up in the morning to train the way that you do on a daily basis?
I would say the doubters, the people that want me to fail, the leftists, all the nasty liberals, because they don't want me to have this voice. They don't want me to have this platform for the right, for the Trumps, for the troops, for America. You know, I stand for the silent majority, so I'm fighting for the people now in the silent majority, and I'll die fighting for them.
What's going on, guys? I'm Joe Morgan, sports reporter here at the Daily Wire. I am super excited to have in studio former UFC champion, #1 in the welterweight division, Colby Covington. What's going on, man?
Not much, just enjoying being here at the Daily Wire in Nashville, man. It's an honor to be here.
First time in Nashville?
First time in Nashville.
Okay. You haven't gone out at all? We haven't tried anything since we've gotten here?
Nah, nothing.
Well, I know you're an athlete, so you're in very good shape, but I suggest doing some hot chicken. Do you like fried chicken?
I can't say that's part of my diet when I'm in training camp for a world title.
Yeah,
so.
That's a good point. Well, look, man, I appreciate you coming. You had a lot to say after the McGregor-Poirier fight. The history between you and Dustin, can you dive into that a little bit for the fans?
You know, we have a history that goes back almost 10 years. We used to train at a gym in South Florida. You know, we trained blood, sweat, and tears for 10 years together. I helped him so many times. I remember I used to help him out with his contract all the time because I was a little ahead of him and I'd won a world title, and he was like, hey, how much is your pay? Like, how much are you gonna make here? I was always very nice with him and telling him all my details about my contract so he could help get a better contract. And I'd always help him prepare for his fights, give him wrestling because he doesn't have good wrestling. He's a one-dimensional boxer in the UFC, so I'd help him, you know, be a well-rounded fighter. And then one day he just decided to turn his back on me. He's like, I'm not training with you. I'm not going to help you. I was going to fight this guy, Robbie Lawler, who's a legend in the UFC. It was one of his friends. He's like, I'm not training with Colby. You know, I don't want nothing to do with Colby. I don't like his act, his character. You know, I want him kicked out of the gym. And, like, he started putting his feelings to the gym owner and was like, hey, I want him out. Like, I don't want him here. So he was kind of one of the reasons I was forced to leave my old gym. So we just have a very bad history. I mean, I don't have any nice things to say about him.
No, I have not heard any nice things in a while, so that's fair. Do you think he should have been proud of that win over McGregor, considering that he broke his leg, his ankle?
Absolutely not. That was a fluke ending. The way Conor threw the kick, he threw a front kick, a teep kick, and it landed on Dustin's elbow. That's an accidental fluke ending. You know, you can't celebrate, and he's over there. This is this nice charitable guy that pretends to be this nice guy on camera. He's strutting in Conor's face right after the fight, you know, right? Dude, that guy just made you millions and millions of dollars and made your career, and you're gonna laugh at him during this fluke ending, and when this guy gave you everything and this opportunity. I mean, it just shows the fake guy that he is. He pretends to be this nice guy on camera, but really he's a piece of shit.
We had heard some talk about maybe his ankles had been broken before that actual break when it basically snapped. Is that something that happens in the UFC where you're doing all these kicks, there's a small break, and then eventually it's just too much? Is that something that you think happened with him?
After every fight that Conor loses, he has a new excuse. Okay. And all these fighters, they try and have these built-in excuses. You know, oh, I had some injury going into the fight, so that's why that's what the result of the fight was, because of that injury. So I think that was a built-in excuse. He's trying to keep the fans still engaged and not let them think that he's done and his career's over, because he made all that money for Floyd. He doesn't have the same motivation, the same drive in his career. So I don't believe that story that his leg was messed up going into the fight.
There's a certain, almost like a threshold in the UFC where you hit a certain age and it almost seems like you kind of go downhill a bit. Do you think he's reached that kind of apex and now he's almost kind of scrambling for news to stay relevant? Because that's kind of the vibe that I get for it, even though he's a legend.
Yeah, for sure.
It's over?
Yeah, it's over. I don't think Conor brings anything to the table anymore. You can see the heart's gone. He doesn't have the same passion for the sport anymore. He's not waking up at 6 a.m. to go on these long runs or bike rides to make sure he's in tip-top physical shape. He's on his yacht, you know, smoking joints, you know, drinking his little whiskey and hanging out with hookers and doing that sort of stuff. So I think the best we've seen from Conor McGregor is in the past, and we won't see that ever again.
The comments he made after the fight, he was talking about Poirier's wife. You and I kind of talked off camera a little bit about the showmanship of the UFC. You're known for this, right? You say what comes to your mind, and there is a part of that in the UFC. I think people can get a little turned off by that sometimes because they think it's 100% real. How real is it Like the stuff that you are saying, like even what he said, right, about Poirier's wife, is that stuff that is done for the showmanship of the UFC, or is that really personal, like bad blood in between fighters?
I think it's a combination of both. For me, when I sell fights, and that's what it's all about, is selling fights and getting people engaged. Whether they hate you or love you, they're tuning in to watch you. All the people that hate me, they want to see me fail and get knocked out. All the people that love me, they want to see me get my hand raised and win. So at the end of the day, how can people be so fickle to say that, oh, he said some mean words, this or that? Dude, we're getting locked in a cage in our underwear and we're taking each other's brain cells. So how mean can you be? Oh, he's a meanie head. He said mean words. Man, you're going to get locked in a cage, but it's okay to kill that guy in the octagon and send him out in a stretcher. Oh, you said some mean things about him. He needs a safe space.
So if it comes back your way, right, do you take it personally, or do you also just see it as, hey, that's part of the industry?
I see it like it's part of the industry. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're going to get locked in that cage. Whether I said some mean words to him or not, do you think he's going to take it easier on me because I said some nice things about his wife? Or do you think he's just going to be the same and want to come kill me either way? So
After the McGregor injury that we saw, that was nasty.
It was nasty.
What's the nastiest injury you've ever inflicted on somebody else?
One time I broke a guy's orbital bone, this bone in the face. Yeah. So we were on the ground, I took him down, I was in mount, and I dropped a heavy elbow right on his face, and I could hear just all the bones in his face just crack and just completely end, and he was done after that. He was pretty much tapped out. He was like, hey, he told the ref, he's like, let me out. He gave a verbal submission. So yeah, it's brutal.
So when you're on the ground, is that something you're thinking of, watching out for those elbows? Is that like the one that's going to knock you out if they actually land it correctly?
Yeah, but luckily for me, I've never been on the ground, like on my back, because I'm a wrestler. So I've never been taken down in the UFC. So I'm the one that's always distributing the elbows to them. So I'm on top and I'm throwing a lot of elbows and trying to cut their face and carve it like a pumpkin.
You're inflicting the pain. As a professional athlete, obviously, this is nonstop, right? It's all day. What gets you up in the morning to train the way that you do on a daily basis?
I would say the doubters, the people that want me to fail. Those are the people I'm getting up at 5 a.m. to do my morning run, and those are the people I'm going to Whole Foods and I'm eating organic food, just a clean diet to make sure that my body is a well-maintained, high-octane engine. And then I go back and train my 2 a day at 3 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and I'll put in about 3 hours. I usually do an hour kickboxing, hour wrestling, and then an hour strength and conditioning. But it's all the people that want me to fail, all the leftists, all the nasty liberals that want to see me fail because they don't want me to have this voice. They don't want me to have this platform for the right, for the Trumps, for the troops, for America. I stand for the silent majority. So I have a bigger purpose than just myself now. I'm fighting for the people now in the silent majority, and I'll die fighting for them.
That's awesome. Are you able to turn it off when you get out of the octagon? Because you have to have this mentality when you're going to get your head taken off, right? Is it a flip of the switch, or is it pretty consistent throughout your day, throughout the life?
For me, it's a flip of the switch. Okay. I've gotten very good with this, and just a lot of experience in the game now of understanding when you need to turn it up and when you need to turn it down. So people say I play this character, but no, I just turn it up to 100, and I go a little crazy. And
you have to.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. Because I'm assuming you're not like this in the ring.
Yeah, no, this is a little bit. I'd get eaten alive if I was like this in the ring.
I'm glad you're like that today. Yeah, this works out for me.
Don't take the kindness for weakness.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Don't worry. Diving into your history, how did you get started in this industry, in this sport? Did this start at a very young age for you?
It did start at a very young age. My parents got me into karate and wrestling when I was 6 years old. Okay. So I've been competing for 27 years now. And I remember when I was in high school, though, I always had Olympic aspirations to be an Olympic champion in wrestling. But I was getting in a lot of street fights in high school. And my mom pulled me, ripped me in the side, gave me some spankings with the wooden spoon, and was like, Colby, no more fighting. If you fight ever again, I'm going to ground you for the rest of your life. And she was like, if you want to fight, go get paid to fight. And I was like, the wheels started turning in my head. I'm like, yeah, you're right, Mom. I'm going to go to an MMA gym, and I'm going to start becoming a professional and get paid to fight in a cage.
Where did that start? Run me through that a little bit. Where in the States? Was there a specific gym where you kind of just got where it all started for you? Yeah,
so I was 17 years old. I was in Springfield, Oregon. And the big gym was up the street in Portland, Oregon. It was with my buddy Chael Sonnen. He's the West Coast gangster, and I decided to go up there and start training with him, and the rest is history. I made it a career and a multi-million-dollar business for myself.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how I've noticed in the UFC specifically, you can literally come out of nowhere to be a superstar. And I also think one of the great things about the UFC is it is kind of an individual, it very much is an individual thing as opposed to the team sports that we see in the NBA and the NFL. Do you think the fact that we're looking at you, it's all you all the time, how appealing is that for the fans as opposed to watching a team sport?
Yeah, I think that's very appealing because, we're in control of our own destiny. It's not about if another player lets you down on the team and he doesn't give his best performance. It's one-on-one. It's mano-a-mano. Yeah. It's the ultimate test of combat, of hand-to-hand combat, and you're in control of your destiny. Whatever's going to happen is going to be because of your doing. If you fall, it's because you made a mistake, and you got to get back up. And if you win, it's because of all you're doing, no one else's.
And it seems that Dana White has leaned into that very much so, where he's like, look, these guys are basically their own business, right? You guys, we don't care what your politics are. You can get it all out there. How much is that appreciated by someone like yourself and the UFC fighters in general, that you're allowed to be your own person?
It's incredible, man. Like, Dana White doesn't muzzle anybody. He's a hardcore Republican, but if you want to be a liberal and state fake news and talk about that in the UFC, he's not going to muzzle you. He's going to let you speak freely, and that's what freedoms are all about in America. That's our constitutional rights. So that's why I love the UFC so much, because we're independent contractors. So in these other sports, the woke sports like baseball or football or basketball, they can't say what they want to speak freely, because they have to report to their agents, they have to report to the unions, they have to report to their teams. So they can't just speak how they want to speak. So that's what I love about being in the UFC and being an independent contractor and being able to stand up for all the other athletes that can't have the same voice.
Well, let's dive into the politics and sports, and this is kind of the fun stuff. You've been outspoken on a lot of this, all of this really. I've seen quite a few of your interviews, and you're not holding back. When it comes to, honestly, specifically the NBA, right, and the way they went about it in the Orlando bubble, where you saw Black Lives Matter all over the floor, et cetera. How do you view that? Because as somebody like yourself who is in the UFC where you're allowed to speak your mind, right, should they be able to do the same thing, right? So when sports and politics, should they intersect, if you will, especially when it comes to like the NBA and the NFL?
I think it's okay if they intersect as long as you let everybody speak freely, right. And it's only one-sided though in the NBA. They're not letting conservatives speak, and if you do, then you're going to get canceled. You're going to lose your job. Yep. Your team is going to probably put you on the bench and not let you speak. So it just seems like the whole NBA as a whole has just completely been behind, China and been behind the left, and it's just they're shoving this narrative down your throat, but they're not letting the other side of the narrative come out. Right. So that's what I don't respect, and the people don't respect it, and that's why the ratings are down. The ratings are an all-time low right now, and you have nothing to point to besides the organization for being so woke.
Talking about the main leader of the NBA, you've had a lot to say about LeBron James. Just give me your thoughts on LeBron, actually, just straight up.
Just a big hypocrite. He talks about his two biggest things he loves to talk about: equality and justice. Where's the equality of employing women in Chinese sweatshops to make your merchandise for millions of dollars while they're making pennies? Where's the equality in that? Where's the justice in critiquing the greatest country on God's green earth, America, but not talking about, Hong Kong, not talking about the Uyghurs in China? He stays silent on everything in China because he's a Chinese puppet master.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think he's very misinformed with a lot of stuff. I do think he's done some good with like his charities and et cetera, but I've heard you have some different comments about like, I think his school. You had some comments about that. Can you expand on that a little bit? I
know firsthand when you're making a lot of money, you need tax write-offs. And these schools, these charities, yeah, he wants to look like a good guy on camera, like he's doing good for the people. This is just a tax write-off, man, for his billion-dollar business. He needs this so he can keep all that cash in the bank. It's not this charitable, nice guy that everybody thinks, oh, LeBron, he's giving back to the kids. No, he's just doing that so he can get a tax write-off and he can keep more money in the bank.
Donald Trump. You've been a supporter of his. When did that happen? How did it happen? Was it a turn for you, or have you always kind of been? Have you been a Republican, and that's something you've always stood by?
I've always been a Republican. I've stood by that since I was a little kid. I grew up in a blue-collar Republican family in Oregon, and we always had Republican values. So I've always been a big fan of Donald Trump. Love the way he does business. Respect his grind and his hustle and the way he made money. He made his money through capitalism. He didn't make it any other way. So I've always been a big fan of him, but I started coming out really hard in 2016, and because before I was a little nervous, and before it was like the mainstream media, the fake news media was made it seem like there was no way Donald Trump. It was over. Clinton had it by a landslide. What's the point of even showing up at the polls to vote? So I didn't even think about voting at that time, but I knew I loved Donald Trump and what he stood for. And then seeing the way, he worked in office and how he put America first, and he loves our troops, and he cared about the people. He genuinely was trying to give more money to people, and you see that. Look at inflation. Look at our gas prices now. Look at our lumber. You go to the grocery store, it's triple now. So I'm a big fan of him, and I'll be a fan of him for life, and I'd literally take a bullet for that guy.
He called you after the Tyron Woodley fight, correct?
Called me after the Tyron Woodley fight, after the Robbie Lawler fight.
Okay. Multiple times.
He's called me multiple times.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are those conversations like? Is it like flooring to have a call from the President of the United States?
So the first one was just so flooring because his family came, Don Jr., Eric Trump, and they brought their kids, and they were able to watch my fight first front row. So that was history as it is, having the first family out to a sporting event, and then going backstage after the win, and Eric Trump's like, hey, my dad wants to talk to you. And then I'm like, no way, President Trump. I was like, this is not real life. Like, it didn't feel real. And like, he just said how much of a fan he is of me, and he just appreciates how hard I'm fighting for America, fighting for Republican values, and standing up for him. That's not the cool thing to do these days. Right. The cool thing to do is to trash Trump, and to make it seem like he's a bad guy, orange man bad. I just have so much respect for President Trump, and I'll die fighting for him and what he believes in.
How much blowback did you get initially from showing him that support?
I got a lot of blowback. I lost a couple sponsors, a couple six-figure sponsors I lost. But, the thing for me is I'm not a sellout, and, I will not sell my soul for money. I always stand up for what I believe in and the values that I was raised on. So I don't care. It's not about the money. It's about, the purpose and what I stand for and the people that are behind me. I know the silent majority is stronger than ever, and a lot of people believe the same things that I do. So, I'm happy with the way that I've done my career and things I've stood for.
Talking about your values, we're starting to see, unfortunately, kind of a turn here in America, right? Where socialism is definitely a thing that, especially in the young generation, that is seeming to infiltrate. As America is trying to move forward here, are you concerned about where we're going at the moment?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How could you not be concerned?
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to raise taxes. I mean, especially the tax bracket that I'm in, I'm going to get crushed. So it's going to hurt, But, and I mean, you go to the gas station and prices are way up, You go to the lumber yard, you want to build a house. I was trying to build another house. I have some real estate, and I wanted to build another one, but it just doesn't make sense financially now. Right. And everything's going up. Inflation's hitting hard. I think the country's direction is not going the right way.
Is there anything that could help change that trajectory? Because my concern is the younger generation of today kind of has this thought in their mind. One, they're ungrateful of what America has done for us as the greatest country in the world. But two, I think they look and they see handouts as the way to move forward. Is there anything we can do besides, speaking out on it, but is there anything that you're doing or you think we should do as a country that would help potentially turn this around?
Yeah, I think that we need to get control of big tech and the media. I think they're manipulating our kids, and they're only funneling this information to these kids that aren't factual. They won't let you be a conservative. They won't let anything that's the truth from the right side be on the internet. They'll fact check and say it's misinformation, So I think being able to get a hold of big tech and not let them have control of the narrative and have control of the way all these kids are getting their information. They're looking at CNN and then they're watching Instagram and Twitter every day, and that's how they get their information. Right. So they don't know right from wrong. So they just know what they're seeing on the internet.
Want to quickly touch on protests from athletes. I'm actually curious from an athlete's perspective. So we've seen it obviously in the NBA and in the NFL. But now we're starting to see it on the Olympic level. I'm almost in that kind of way of thinking of, look, the NBA, the NFL, they are in their private businesses. While I don't like it, you technically can do what you want to do. Once you don that American flag, how offensive is that to you?
That's beyond offensive. Yeah. Coming from, a military family where my grandfather served in the Korean and Vietnam War, he's shed blood for the red, white, and blue so these kids can have these freedoms today. And to disrespect and spit and kneel on our flag and not have a sense of national pride is just, it's like a dagger to the heart. I don't watch the Olympics. I don't watch woke sports anymore. I'm completely done with it. I've completely pulled away. I'm not emotionally invested in it. I could care less about what's going on with that. Like, go to another country. You hate our country so much, go to another country. Right. You're free to go to another country. You're not free to go to other countries if you're in another country. If you're in Cuba, think about the people that are leaving Cuba. Those people are getting on 1960 Cadillacs and they're going through shark-infested waters 90 miles to get to America. So,
what is in the future for you? Obviously, you don't have to make any announcement here, but just what do you see happening in the next couple of months? Where do you want to be in the UFC as you move forward?
Yeah, the next couple of months I will be the UFC welterweight champion again. I'm going to get my rematch with Marty Usman, and we're going to lock heads. We fought 2 years ago, and there was a lot of bad calls. That's what happens when you become a Trump supporter. You get the deck stacked against you. It's never going to be a level playing field. They always want you to fail when you support Trump. So, you know, I'm going to overcome that. I'm going to get that UFC world title, and then we'll go from there. Who knows? Maybe be back here in Nashville at the Daily Wire.
That'd be great. You're the best in the world?
The best in the world, just like the Daily Wire.
There you go. Colby Covington, everybody. Thanks so much.